why do you think medical doctors attack Dr. Reese?
I think medical doctors are threatened by Dr. Reese, really because, he's changing people's beliefs. He's really pushing the limits. He was taught a lot different. Medical doctors they're trained on what they're trained on and, pushing medications, and they're not really trained on nutrition and posture and things like that. So I think that, they don't know better and they're threatened by that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Hello, today I'm going to be talking with Coach Amber. Oh, first off, how are you doing today, Amber?
I'm good. How are you?
So far, so good.
Good.
We're going to be talking about what it's like working with Dr. Reese and all that comes with it. So without further ado, let's get into the first question. Okay. So what was the reaction you had when you saw all of these women attracted to Dr. Reese?
I've known Dr. Reese for a long time, so for me, it's weird. I don't look at him like that, so I'm like, oh, okay. But, there's something about him. I think women they love him. Most of them, they love him. I don't know if it's his hair, his soft voice. I read the comments, and that's mostly what people say. Like, oh, I love your hair. Oh, I love when you talk so slow and low. There's just something about him that the women are just really attached to.
It's very split. There's either you love or it's mostly the men that hate Dr. Reese and the women that love.
Most of the women are all over him.
Yeah, I see it too. It's pretty crazy. But you said you've known Dr. Reese for a long time. How long? I've
known Dr. Reese. It's got to be about 8 years now. I always kind of think back. My daughter was 1 when I had started his program, and then after doing the program, I started working with him as a coach. So yeah, it's been about 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. So within those 8 years, what was the hardest part about being a coach with Dr. Reese?
The hardest part about being a coach. Sometimes I think the hardest part would be when we have clients that don't really want to take the recommendations, which is kind of tough because, you sign up for the program and now we're expecting you to really go all in and give it your all. You have to put in the work. So when we have clients that are not really up for the suggestions and the recommendations on supplements or diet, that gets really tough because, we're telling you we can help you with, X, Y, and Z. But if you're not following what the recommendations are from Dr. Reese, then you're not going to get those same results.
Yeah. I feel like the first month or so is the hardest part about.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Just trying to find that good routine for everybody. But I think it's an art and it's beautiful that way because you're creating a personalized protocol for each person. And for you to be able to keep up with that, and I don't know, a lot goes into it. I appreciate you so much.
There is a lot.
Coach, because yeah, that is a lot. When a client isn't healing, what is the next step? It's not healing like you want them to. What do you do from there?
When a client's not healing the way we are expecting, I definitely, I go back to the team and, I talk to Dr. Reese, talk to the head coaches, you guys, and I think we all put our heads together and just kind of see what the next step is. Is there something missing? Make sure the client is doing everything that they're supposed to do and just kind of circle back around and see what we can do to improve.
Mm-hmm. Like a whole team meeting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between clients that do well on the program to clients that don't do as well starting out in the program? What is it usually that the clients that are doing well do that the clients that don't do well do?
I think personally the biggest thing is the mindset. So when people come in and they're really ready to give it their all and they're working on the mindfulness as well, and they're not, not fighting back, they're just going to take all the recommendations and really put the work in, they seem to do a lot better when clients come in and they're like a little hesitant on certain things and they're not, they don't want to take all the supplements and they're being really choosy, or they're picky with the diet. That's where, like, when they give that pushback, it's just like, that seems to be the big difference, that, they don't get the results that other clients do that are really putting in 100%.
Yeah. I want to add to that because I feel like nowadays, especially, most of us have been through the medical monopoly in one way or another, and they're like stuck on that mentality of take this for this issue, and then that issue usually disappears in like 1 or 2 days. And when that doesn't happen, they're like, oh my gosh.
Exactly.
They freak out.
And I do see that a lot too. People, it's like a week in and they're like, well, I'm not seeing any changes yet. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, this takes time. Like you really have to be okay with giving it the time. It's not just it's not a quick heal,
Yeah.
You need to put the work in and give it the time.
Yeah. He always says if they're like, whatever age they are, it's like that age to 1 year. And it's not even 1 year. It's like really 4 months is what we expect the most amount of change to come from. But I don't know. It's just like, yeah.
Yeah, you can't expect years and years of damage that you put into your body and, just to fix itself in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is never going to happen.
At all. And I wish more people understood that, but that's certainly something that, we try to do on the front line, try to like tell people like, look, this is, you have to go through the pain, and it's not like literal pain, but it's like, you got to go through the pain to get to the peace. You got to go through the hard part. So with that, I wanted to cue in a little more on like, what is it like for you working with Dr. Reese? I know everybody's experience is a little different because we're all virtual. So like, how do you, like, what's your relationship with Dr. Reese? How do you?
I feel like we talk quite a bit because I'm always updating him on clients and, confirming protocols and things like that. So I definitely feel like I talk to him a lot on that end. And then I even talk to him on like my own personal stuff too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I definitely have a good relationship with him and talk to him pretty frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's great. Do you have a lot of questions for him most of the time?
I do. I definitely ask a ton of questions because I just like to, it's like, even when I know something, I'm like, let's confirm. I always like to make sure I'm going back to the doctor and confirming everything. So, I ask a lot of questions.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Like, that shows you care,
Yeah, exactly.
Even if
I'm probably driving him crazy, but it's like, I'd rather be safe and make sure that we're all on the same page.
You really care about the clients, and you're making sure that everybody's getting the best experience possible. And again, I'll say it so many times, you guys are amazing for doing that because you're putting a lot of yourself into each client that you get.
Right, for sure. I love it. I love my job.
You deal with so many clients, though.
I do. I have a ton of clients right now, and yeah, I love it. I mean, each of them are great and very different, and it's just always a nice experience. And I love seeing their growth and their changes.
It must be like a motherly feel to like. It's like your child is growing up.
Oh yeah, and that's me 100%. I'm like super mothering and nurturing. So I really put my heart and soul into each client.
Wow, that's amazing. So can you tell me about the time that you would be with Dr. Reese and you do like your rounds with different clients, like all in a day or something like that?
Oh yeah. So a couple months ago we got together and we did, I think it was like 8 or 10 Zoom meetings, and 30 minutes each client. And that was really interesting. Dr. Reese he kind of ran everything, and I was just more so like sitting back, listening, taking note, answering his questions if if there was anything he needed to know about the clients. But that was a great experience because really just seeing the way he dealt with each client. A lot of it actually was like mindfulness. Like he didn't even get as deep into like nutrition. I mean, he touched it where it was necessary, but he really talked about mindfulness mostly. And it was a great experience. It was a long day, but it was good. It flew by because there was just, like I said, every 30 minutes, a new client. And so a new scenario. And
Yeah.
it was awesome.
No, I got a bit of that too. And most of it was mindfulness. I feel like, well, do you feel like that's like a misunderstood topic, or just like people neglect that the most?
Yeah, 100%. I find most people are kind of like, they lack a little bit like in the curriculum. When I ask them how they're doing, they talk about the supplements, the nutrition, the posture. And when I bring up the curriculum, they're like, oh yeah, I kind of slacked on that. I'm a little behind. And so I really try to stress like how important that is, because if mentally, if you're not right and you're not all in, everything else is not going to fall into place.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I like how you put that. So going even deeper, how do, like, let's say you get a religious client, like how do they fare well with the mindfulness program for the most part?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel like sometimes they're a little hesitant at first, but when they get in there and see what it really is, it doesn't really have anything to do with the religion, So I feel like once they jump in and they see that, they're okay with it. I haven't personally had any major issues with anybody that was religious getting into the mindfulness, but up front, sometimes there's some questions on that. But yeah, well, once they get into it, they see it has nothing to do with religion at all, and then they're good to go with it.
If anything, I feel like it enhances like whatever spirituality they represent. You've seen a lot of like when you knew people were like pretty consistent with the mindfulness, have you seen like a shift or anything like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I even went through that myself. I mean, I used to have anxiety pretty bad. And like once I started working on my mindfulness, everything changed. My gut, like everything got better, my anxiety, and I wasn't even kind of thinking about the anxiety going away. And it's like all of a sudden one day I was like, oh wait, I haven't really been anxious in a while.
Yeah.
Or like had panic attacks and like I used to get panic attacks bad, and all of that just kind of went together, and one day it was no more.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
Oh,
yeah.
It's so nice.
I went through that before, so I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Do you find that you have to remind clients or like just tell them how far they've made it since the beginning of the program?
Yeah, 100%. Most clients, most of them do not give themselves enough credit. I mean, every once in a while I have clients, like I spoke to a client this morning, and she's always great on like she's just very positive and gives herself the credit we're due. But yeah, most clients are not like that. Like they don't give themselves enough credit. And I do have to remind them, like, look back just, 3-4 months ago, you've come such a long way. Like look at all these changes. And that's why I really always encourage everybody to do the day one video, because that, or even journaling, because I feel like when you start feeling better, you kind of forget how bad you were feeling before. So I always tell them, like journal, do your video. You can look back at that and realize like just how much progress you've actually made.
Yeah.
We got to love on ourselves more.
Yeah.
Give the credit where it's due. Yeah.
And that's what the mindfulness is for.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So how do you handle clients that are a few weeks into the program and they just start to regret the decisions that they made?
Normally, I mean, I feel like at that point, I remind them why they joined, because a lot of times, I mean, you joined for a reason, right? Like things were bad enough that you decided to join. And so I think sometimes like buyer's remorse is like, that's a normal thing for a lot of people. You start to panic and, is this really for me? So I just remind them, this is why you came into the program. These are the things that you have to work on. It's only been a couple weeks. Like you still have so much time, and you're going to get results. You just have to trust the process and work through it. But I think it definitely helps to remind them why they joined us in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So how has client progress like helped you instill what you do?
All my clients have really good progress, and I feel like it's really rewarding to see all their growth. So for me, it makes me just love my job coaching so much more. and makes me want to continue. For me, it's like, if I can help these people in any way, that's motivation enough for me to continue on with this job.
Mm-hmm. Does it ever get overwhelming?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Especially when I get like a lot of new clients in at once. There's just a lot to cover up front, especially. So yeah, it gets overwhelming. But when I just, I remind myself, like, look at how many clients have already done so much better, have gone through the program and healed so much and have a ton of progress. And for me, that's what it's really all about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so with that, what is the worst experience that you've had?
The worst, I've had like a client actually drop the program, like, get pretty far in and then just kind of go MIA because they were really unwilling to follow recommendations. So that's like, you don't get to see any progress because they're really not trying. They give a lot of pushback. So that, I would say, would be the worst. Nothing comes out of it, so it's kind of tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that, what's the best experience you've had?
I've had so many like good experiences, but just, like the first thing coming to mind is like, working with older clients, like a client in their 70s. And, at that point you kind of think like, okay, I'm going to get some help, but I'm so much older. So how much change is really going to come? And then, they experience big changes, things that they never thought would turn around actually does. So, yeah, I think that's pretty rewarding. I mean, like I said, everybody for the most part has something so great come out of their story, and and it's very rewarding.
So how do you deal with clients that are basically 1 foot in medical monopoly, 1 foot out, and just are tempted to do treatments like surgery and medications and such like that?
That makes it kind of tricky. I've dealt with that. And the hard part is, it's like, we really want you to trust the process. So it's like, I would never say, don't go see a doctor if you really need to, or like, I would recommend urgent care if necessary. But, it makes it hard on our end because if you're kind of in and out, like I've had clients kind of panic, like, oh, I saw my doctor and they told me I have this going on or I have that going on. And they're in the beginning of the program. And it's like, well, you really want to give it some time, let the program work, do what you need to do, and then maybe go in and recheck your labs and see how things are. So it gets tricky when they're half in, half out, because, it's like if you're joining the program, we want you to really trust the program, trust our recommendations. But every once in a while, urgent care is necessary. And, sometimes things are needed that's outside of our control.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you had any cases like that where it's just like they're about to go through with a treatment and a breakthrough happens or something like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I've had situations where clients are, they're like, oh, I don't know, is this working completely? I'm still having these issues going on and my doctor's talking to me about surgery, and, I might schedule it for a couple months and then all of a sudden they're like, wait, wow, I feel so much better. Or, I noticed changes in my labs and, and then they end up not needing surgery.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's when that happens. That's amazing.
Truly amazing. So I think most people still don't understand that we're completely virtual. And so we deal with clients all over the world. So can you speak on how we deal with international clients?
Yeah. So it could be a little tricky up front, depending on where people live, figuring out getting them supplements. I think that's like the trickiest part, but we haven't had any major issues so far. Any client that we've had in a different country, we're able to get them their supplements. We have, tried a couple of different methods and they all seem to work. And, in the end of the day, everybody gets their supplements and there's no issue. So we really make it work no matter where you're located.
International would also come not just with the supplements, but dealing with time zones. I know certain clients won't be able to make the meetings that we have scheduled, like the rabbit hole meeting. And so how do we still keep in contact with those clients and make sure they're getting their questions answered and getting the material and whatever they paid for?
I feel like when it comes to that, the time zones can be tricky for sure. I feel like we're really accommodated though in that sense. Even when I start out with like our orientation meeting, I am willing. Like sometimes I'll do a Zoom meeting at 8-9 o'clock at night just to make it work, because sometimes the time difference is huge. And then when it comes to the rabbit hole meetings, we always have available, like even if they can't join the meeting, we always have a replay available. I think one of the best things now that we do is the ticket system with Dr. Reese. So a client can submit him a ticket with a question, with lab work, anything like that. And he'll send a video message back responding to their question or going over their labs and things like that. So it's nice because they still have access to Dr. Reese in that sense, even if they can't attend the meetings.
So how did you get involved with Dr. Reese's program?
So I probably about 8 years ago, I was having a lot of health issues. I was early 20s and got diagnosed with high blood pressure. And then it's probably like 27, 28. And I was just getting a lot of pain. I don't even know exactly what it was. Like I was going to my doctor all the time. I was a mess, a lot of anxiety because I was in pain, pain in my legs, pain in like my rib area. And I remember one time I went to my doctor, my blood pressure was through the roof. It's probably like my third or fourth time seeing her within like a month. So, and she was like, honestly, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know what else to tell you. And I really can't help you. And that was hard to hear because at that point I was like really trusting my doctor to point me in the right direction. So my sister knew Dr. Reese from high school and she had been following him and going to his seminars and things. And she was like, you really should check him out. So I decided to join his program. And it was great. Like he told me pretty quickly, like, most likely you'll need to get off of your blood pressure medication, just kind of track it to make sure it wasn't getting too low. So he was right on the money. Like 60 days, I started to feel like symptoms like my blood pressure was low and checked it and it was, and I was able to get off my medication. And then anxiety just went. Like it was one of those things I wasn't even thinking about, and all of a sudden it was gone. Yeah. So that was huge. My pain went away. And then even going a little further, and this for me was really huge, getting pregnant with my daughter, I needed to do fertility treatments. And when I decided I wanted another one, I talked to Dr. Reese about it, and I was going to try a couple of different things. And he's like, honestly, keep doing what you're doing. It will work out. And I ended up getting pregnant naturally. Yeah. And I think that was just from, not eating a bunch of crap. My body was just in such a better place. So after that, he asked me to join his team, and I've been working with him ever since.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a crazy story.
Amazing. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, that is all the questions I had for today. Thank you for coming in. And again, thank you so much for the work that you do for these clients and within the program itself. We really appreciate you, Amber.
Thank you. And thank you for taking the time today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jumpstart your head-to-toe healing journey with the Dr. Reese book trilogy. Peace Over Pain is the cult classic that explains how head-to-toe healing works and how the medical monopoly doesn't. Reverse the Cause lays out the root causes to over 60 chronic conditions. And Dinner with Dr. Reese is a unique cookbook that contains 100 recipes without the destructive pour for foods. Together, all three books set you on a path to head-to-toe healing. Get yours today on Amazon, Audible, or peaceoverpain.com. Also, if you'd like to ask a question, tune in every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern for Dr. Reese Live.